Today, we are going to be learning how to use Standby Skipper at Walt Disney World, which is a skip the line service. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Hey Disney family, this is Jessica from Well Hello Magic. Today I'm going to be walking you through how to use Standby Skipper. This is definitely going to be more of an instructional video. I am one of the OG users with an OG code on getting you a discount on Standby Skipper. So I've seen it through all of its iterations. I've seen it go from Genie Plus all the way through Lightning Lane Multipass. So I'm going to give you all the tools you need to make sure that Standby Skipper helps you have a successful day. I'm going to go through tips and tricks and things that you need to know. Before we get started, there are a couple of things I need you to know. One, you need to understand how Lightning Lane Multipass works before you even use Standby Skipper. So if you don't know how Lightning Lane Multipass works, I do have a video on it. I will be updating the 26 version, but the 25 version is still relevant. It still works the exact same. So if you haven't watched that video or read my blogs, head to www.wellhellomagic.com, type in Lightning Lane in the search bar, and you'll have a bunch of blogs there. Or you can watch the video that is linked in the description in this video. This does not help you with single pass, so keep that in mind. You're still going to need to know how to book those single pass lightning lanes. This is a tool. So it's not going to make your day perfect, but it's an additional tool that you can use to help make your day more seamless. And then you need to learn how to use Standby Skipper. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to use Standby Skipper and then use it and think it's going to work for you the way it should. I have examples in this of my husband using it without me, and he finally understood what I was saying. So I'm going to help give you those tools so you know how, when, and what time of day you should use the different choices inside of Standby Skipper. First, let's talk about Lightning Lane Multipass and Standby Skipper and if it's worth it. There isn't a situation for my family where I am not getting Lightning Lane Multipass unless it is a day we are truly just going to enjoy the park in terms of eating food, watching shows. We have no intention on getting on rides. We travel from Pennsylvania, and even though we're Disney Vacation Club, we go about 4 to 6 times a year, depending on the year. We don't want to waste our time when we're at the parks to get on rides. And so here are the average wait times at Magic Kingdom or at all the parks. So you have Magic Kingdom at 39 minutes. Of course, this is an average of all the wait times. Epcot is 28 minutes. And I say that this is skewed because if you look at the average of their top 4 rides, you're looking more at 40 minutes. And then they have a lot of low demand rides at Epcot, which usually waits are under 30 minutes. So when you combine the two, you have this 28-minute wait time. But if you want to get on those top 4 or 5 rides, you're looking at almost 5 hours in line. Average wait time at Hollywood Studios is 42 minutes, and this is true. Hollywood Studios has so many popular and high demand rides that I feel like everything there is a long wait except for the shows and maybe 1 or 2 rides. Then the average wait time at Animal Kingdom is 43 minutes, and this might be a little skewed from Flight of Passage because that one typically has about an hour and a half wait, but all the other rides typically have about this 20 to 40 minute wait. So can you wait those times? Yes, but why would you if you have a tool that I understand you have to pay for, but is going to help you reduce these wait times by about 4 to 5 hours total. If you're nervous about booking, Standby Skipper is such a great tool because it helps you book the rides even when you're not paying attention. And do you want to reduce the stress of remembering your booking times, and the booking windows that open up? So this is what makes it worth it for me. So we're going to talk about some other strategies and advantages that also may help your Disney day. So we already know getting Lightning Lane Multipass and Single Pass is one strategy. We know Standby Skipper is another tool that helps you. But if you're staying on Disney property, you also get this thing called early entry where you are able to enter the parks 30 minutes before all the guests. When you look at it statistically, only 30 to 40% of all people going to Walt Disney World stay on property, which means majority of the people are off property. So really utilizing that 30 minutes in the morning, especially the right way, can really help you maximize your day at Disney. So we use early entry mostly when we are going to the parks with another family who has never been to Disney before, because we want them to get the full experience. We are typically not an early entry family if we're by ourselves, but we go all the time. So it's a little different. But if I was planning like a once every couple year trip, a once in a lifetime trip, you're going to see me using early entry. But with early entry, we always take a midday break because it makes it just too long of a day to stay in the parks. So early entry gets you that 30 minutes before. Rope dropping is another tool. So for those who are on property, you can rope drop early entry and really maximize your time, because if you get to the gate before it even allows everyone in, they start allowing people in depending anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes before early entry starts. You get in line for the rides, you can knock out a couple of rides, especially the popular ones, super early. Now, if you are part of that 60 to 70% that's off property, you are able to rope drop only one park area out of the whole resort, which is Magic Kingdom. At park opening, you're able to rope drop Liberty Square, Adventureland, and Frontierland, because early entry only has Tomorrowland and Fantasyland open to on-site guests. So if you're an off-site guest, your rope drop opportunity is definitely going to be at Magic Kingdom. So keep that in mind. The last thing is, there is this thing called extended evening hours. I am going to be honest, we have never been. We have not been one time, and we stay deluxe 90% of the time because we're Disney Vacation Club members. My kids are still little. We are just getting to the ages where I think they're able to stay up long enough. My oldest is 14, and I have all the way to a 5-year-old. So extended evening hours is hard for us. To be able to qualify for extended evening hours, not only do you need to be a deluxe resort guest, but you also have had to have a park ticket for that day. So I have an annual pass. So extended evening hours I could go to, but my family uses military tickets. And yes, this year we have that all year military ticket, but typically we only have, a 6-day ticket for them. And going to the park all day and then going back to extended evening hours is a lot. So that's not something you're going to see us do very often. And so for us, extended evening hours is not a strategy that's realistic for us to use because our kids are young. Now, when I have all teenagers and young adults, I definitely think extended evening hours is where it's going to be. But if you are planning, a once every few year, once in a lifetime trip, maybe you can make your schedule so that going to extended evening hours will be something that you can achieve. Now, we go to a lot of after hours parties. We love an after hour party, but we usually sleep in. We're not getting ready until about 2 or 3 o'clock. We're eating and resting all day before we go, and we can close down a party. But if you are wanting to add extended evening hours in your plans, just be mindful of the age of your kids and if it's something realistic for your group. So let's actually talk about what Standby Skipper is. Standby Skipper is an app that books your Lightning Lane multi-pass selections for you. This is great because it can get you those high demand rides, especially if some of them have sold out. You only need one phone to really operate Standby Skipper. Even if you're distracted, Standby Skipper takes care of booking your Lightning Lanes for you because you will pre-select different Lightning Lanes you want booked, and it does reduce the amount of time that you're on your phone. So Standby Skipper is a very helpful tool, especially if you're nervous about missing booking windows for rides, or if you're distracted or a busy parent at the park. This helps you a ton. So you are able to purchase Standby Skipper 30 days before your trip to Walt Disney World. You can do this if you just want it done and you want to know that the app is downloaded on your phone and ready to go. You can have up to 12 people on your Lightning Lane multi-pass through Standby Skipper. This is a little bit different than the actual app. You can have up to 20 people when you're booking those initial rides, but Standby Skipper still limits it to 12. So that's the only thing that is different here. The cost for one day is $25. Do not be like me. In November of 2022, when Standby Skipper was new, I was very skeptical. So I only bought it for one day. And I had been doing about 3 months of research on this app at the time. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. So I bought it for one day. It worked awesome. So I ended up paying another $25 for the second day, spending $50 when I could have just spent $45 for 7 days of access. On top of that, I do have a code WHD5, which gets you $5 off, and I get nothing from this code. There is no kickback. And so I got a code just because I really wanted it for my followers. I feel like it is very useful. So make sure to use that code and pay $40 for the 7 days. It is well worth it. You also have to remember this is an additional cost to Lightning Lane. So you will pay for Lightning Lane outside of Standby Skipper. So if you're trying to make a budget, make sure you keep that in mind. The only other thing is Standby Skipper only allows you to connect up to 12 people, where when you pre-book your Lightning Lanes with Disney, you can actually book 20 people in that initial pre-booking. But this is not for pre-booking. So you will still have to do all that pre-booking on your own. And when it comes to rides, I don't know about your group, but we don't always have the whole group wanting to ride the same rides. So 12 people picking a ride usually works okay for us. So let's talk about setting up Standby Skipper, because this has been one of the things that has had to change over the years. Now, Standby Skipper is required to be one of your friends on your My Disney Experience app in order to have access to book your Lightning lanes. So as soon as you go onto Standby Skipper and you choose a ride, it's going to say, let's be friends. And it's going to ask you this question. And if you want to use Standby Skipper, you have to tell it, yes, you do actually want to be friends. This shows an example of it asking you and letting you know what it's going to look like, and it will automatically take you to your My Disney Experience app to log in, where you will see that you have a pending friend request and you're going to accept. Once you've done this, you'll probably go back to your Standby Skipper thinking you're ready to go, but it will take you to this page where it will show you everyone you manage, the friends that you're with, or friends that are linked to your account. I have about 60 people linked to me because we go with so many different people, but you will have to click on that box and invite them as well. So you can tell when you've invited someone because there'll actually be a timer, and when they've accepted, there'll be that check mark that's like by my name. And once they've accepted that they are friends with Standby Skipper, now you're able to book for anyone in your party, and it will say my, when you click my travel party, you'll be able to see everyone's name that's connected. And this is really important that you do ahead of time, because it'll make it a lot easier and you're not doing it the day of or in the moment. So you just want to make sure everyone is friends. You'll see every single person that's linked to you. People who manage other people need to make sure to go and accept the friendship as well. You can see I manage a couple people there, and I would have to accept their friendship in order to be able to use Standby Skipper. So there are two key to successes when you are using Standby Skipper and Lightning Lane Kit together. You have to understand sellout order just so that you don't miss a ride that might be on your priority list. And you have to understand batching, because you're going to want to enter all the things you need to in Standby Skipper and then move on. And once that group is done, then you'll want to enter your second batch, because you don't want your family or your group's high priority rides to be mixed with rides that maybe aren't as important to you, because you want to make sure that you take care of those priority rides first before you move on to just whatever rides are available. So there are 6 different booking times available. And what a booking time is, these are the windows where you'll be able to put your ride selections in. So let's say you're trying to book Frozen Ever After and your hope is to get it in the morning. You can put Frozen Ever After into this booking time, and if it's available, it will book it during those. So let's run through the different ones. And then on the next slide, I can explain to you why these are so important. So in the morning, that is going to book anything from park open till noon. Afternoon books anything that comes available between 12 and 4. ASAP is going to be booking the ride if it's within 2 hours of the time. So if you put something in ASAP at 9 o'clock, it will only look for times that are from 9 to 11, or as the clock moves, the window moves as well. But that's what ASAP means. Anytime means anytime. If it, let's say it is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and it is sold out, and you put it in anytime and a thing becomes available at 7:30 at night, it will book that 7:30, because that is when it became available. Then you have night, which night is a newer edition of the categories, and it's nice to have because this is 6 p.m. to park close. And then there's evening, which is 4 p.m. to park close, because sometimes with evening, 4 is just a little too early. So having that night option that won't book until after 6 o'clock is really nice to have. Okay, so the first of two strategies we're going to talk about is sellout order. So here I have Magic Kingdom all laid out in terms of what sellout order is for that park. This can change as new attractions come. I did put Big Thunder Mountain on there because it is going to be reopening in 26 and it will be a popular ride. It's a tier 1 attraction, so it's going to have an early sellout time. If you don't know what sellout order means, it literally means what it says. It is in the order of rides selling out for the day with Lightning Lane. Now, there's always going to be a standby line. Right now, Disney is not utilizing virtual queues anymore. It's pretty much single pass, standby line, or Lightning Lane. And so, with this order, it allows you to kind of plan your day. So if your group has a high priority ride that is like, if we don't ride Big Thunder Mountain, it's going to ruin our day. Or if we don't ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it's going to ruin our day. You know that during your pre booking window, that is one of the rides you should go for. What Standby Skipper allows you to do is when you have tapped into your first ride at the park, you can have these set for ASAP or morning times, and it will go ahead and book the next tier 1, because as you enter the park, all of the rules go away. This is why it's important for you to really do that Lightning Lane multi-pass video first, so you understand those rules, so that you can really have Standby Skipper help you in knowing where you need to put these next rides. But look at this list that shows you where morning of rides that sell out in the morning, in the afternoon, and then the ones that are in the evening that or rarely sell out, which I say don't really use Standby Skipper for those unless you're using them for a very specific reason. Like if you're in Fantasyland and you've accomplished your high demand rides and you just want to put all of these rides in ASAP because they're lower demand and the times are available right now, that makes sense. But you really want in your pre-planning to stick to your sellout order of your, and then look at the priority of rides for your family and plan accordingly that way. So I'm going to help you understand when and where to use each of these categories for Standby Skipper. So anytime means exactly what it says. It's any time of day. So if you're at the park at 9 a.m. and then you decide you want Remy and you put it in anytime, it could schedule it at 8 p.m. So just mentally be aware of that. And once it's scheduled, it's not constantly looking for like a better or closer time to modify it for you, if that makes sense. So if you're really not okay with any time, you don't want to use this as an option. If you are truly like, we don't care when we get it, we're taking a break, we can come back and ride it, then use anytime. But once you put it in anytime, it doesn't modify if there's an earlier time. ASAP, that is when return times are within 2 hours of the current time that you are like in the park or you put the item in that. I like to use ASAP for low demand rides because usually the Lightning Lane is available around the time that you're in that area. So, like, let's say if I'm in Fantasyland at 7 p.m., usually like the low demand like Dumbo, teacups, if it's not a holiday weekend, are pretty readily available. So I may like dump all of those, Little Mermaid, Winnie the Pooh, all together into ASAP and just let it continuously book me rides and we just see which one we get. Or it's something where, in the morning you have your 3 pre-booked Lightning Lanes and you already know by sellout order that there should be a couple of times left of some of these rides once you tap in, especially if you're lucky enough to be there for early entry, which means you're going to tap into your first Lightning Lane right when the park opens. You could stick those in ASAP to see if it grabs any rides, because we do know that Disney does reserve some rides the day of. So that way, like, let's say, you wanted an early Tiana or something like that, and you have a different tier 1 booked. Let's say Big Thunder Mountain booked, you could put Tiana's Bayou Adventure and ASAP. And when the drop happens and you've tapped into Big Thunder Mountain, who knows, you might be lucky and you might get that. Then morning and afternoon, those are going to be your most frequently used in what I call batching, just because in the morning and afternoon, that's when you're going to be heavily on rides in the park. And so when you go to put in your first batch of rides, which I don't recommend putting like more than about 4 in that first batch, and we'll talk more about batching on the next slide, but they're always typically in morning or afternoon because you're going to want to get ride times that are before noon, and then you're going to want those 12 to 4, even though you're going to have lunch sometime in that. You still want lightning lanes being booked during that time frame, especially because lightning lanes don't expire for 3 hours. This has been tested so many times, and it looks like Disney Food Blog did a test on it, and literally at 3 hours and 1 minute, you weren't able to get on. So it's okay if the ride gets booked at 12 and it says the window is till 1, but you're still eating. And then you go hop on it after 1 o'clock. You should still be fine. So evening and night are interesting choices. I actually used to hate the evening option because I just felt like 4 o'clock was so early. And before we could modify, it was like a detriment to have this evening book because Standby Skipper was so good that it literally grabbed 4 o'clock times constantly. And you're like, it's right during the parade or we're on our midday break. So I love that they have this night option. So if you're people who start at the park later in the day, evening is great because you can use your morning, afternoon, evening times to book, and it'll start booking at 4 o'clock. If you're like my family that likes to start really early, takes a midday break, we really don't want anything in that 4 to 6 window because we know we're not going to be at the park during that window. We usually leave the park around 2 or 3 p.m. And so night is a great option because we always come back with stacked rides. And I really love that. So I love that we have this night option that starts at 6 p.m. because it gives me another way to stack rides now that we really can't do that as often. But you can stack those evening rides and set yourself pretty good for the later part of the day. So we're going to talk about batching. So batching is when you put together the groups of rides that you're going to be putting into Standby Skipper together. So truly your first batch one is your pre-booking window. So whether it's 3 days because you're staying off site or if it's 7 days to your first day at the hotel, that is going to be your first batch. You're going to pick your tier one and your two tier twos. You're going to start out laying out the day. Also, your single passes will be purchased that day as well. So you'll have to think strategically whether you're wanting to start in Tomorrowland, Fantasyland at Magic Kingdom, or if you're at Epcot, the single pass is Guardians. So do you want to start on that side of the World Showcase? And does that change what tiers that you book? Because like for Epcot, for example, if we are buying a single pass for Guardians and I want to start there in the morning, I typically will plan it for us to rope drop, and we will either rope drop Frozen or Test Track, just depending on what our goal is for the day. And then I will book Remy because that's a harder lightning lane. So again, strategy matters, sellout time matters. And so your first batch is going to be your pre-booking. Then your batch one, batch two, batch three for Standby Skipper. Your batch one is going to be based on where you're starting in the park. So if you're starting in Fantasyland and you're going to be doing Seven Dwarfs Mine Train really early, like let's say you have that booked early, maybe for your first batch, you have rides that are in Fantasyland as well. And then you go ahead and put that into Standby Skipper for ASAP so that as soon as you tap in for that first ride, it starts booking other rides in that area in the morning. Or if you're doing like another high demand ride, let's say you want to start over in Big Thunder Mountain is your selection because it just came back on. You could also put morning Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You could put Pirates, Haunted Mansion, kind of put your first batch over in that area of the park. And then once you've started accomplishing those, your second batch is going to be on the opposite side of the park. And that's where you're going to start utilizing your night and evening, and sometimes afternoon, depending on how fast you get through your rides. But for us, we are midday breakers and we like to put in a lot of shows. And so we usually have the batch in the morning, we have the batch in the evening, and then once we've accomplished everything we wanted and we're just like enjoying the park, I'm either booking with my hands lightning lane, or I just put everything in ASAP and then we just run to whatever ride it books us next. And I'll show you an example of how we plan out our day. I do this thing called Realistic Disney Day. You can do 8 items in a day. Yes, you can do more and you will do more, but in order to guarantee doing those high demand rides or the priorities for your family, like character meet and greet, since they're no longer part of Lightning Lane, I have you pick 8 high priority things for your family. Make sure you accomplish those 8 things in the beginning of the day. That way, no one leaves the park feeling like, oh, well, I only wanted to do this one thing and we never did that. So that's how I teach you how to break down your park day so that you can achieve. If I'm being honest, we usually achieve probably 12 to 18 things a day when we go to the park, but I never want to set you up for failure. And I don't want to set you up to feel rushed either, because I want you to enjoy your Disney vacation. So on this slide, I've put the highest demand ride per park currently in 2026. Now, this is an ever evolving chart, especially as Disney is in construction right now and they're going to have new rides. When a new ride opens up, that automatically becomes one of the high demand rides. When Big Thunder Mountain opens up, I can guarantee you that will sell out so fast, just because they've added a lot of stuff to Big Thunder Mountain. It's a brand new track and people are going to ride it. We've missed it because it's been closed for a year. So if I don't update this video in 2027, you just need to go and look and see what are the high demand rides of right now. And if these are on your priority list, these need to be the ones you focus on in the morning and afternoon. And if you can pre-book some of them, that also would be helpful. Also, right now, Disney's Animal Kingdom does not have tiers because it's just all one tier. But I can guarantee you when Tropical America's open, they will all of a sudden have a tier 1. So you always have to be mindful of those changes as well. So it's always good to review a video or review a blog before a Disney trip. Obviously, my videos don't change as frequently as my blogs do. So if you're ever curious on what rides are high demand, you can always go to my blog, even though this video will still help you learn what to do and what to prioritize. The blog I can change instantly to let you know if the high demand rides have changed per park. But this is a very important part of your strategy when you're planning your day. Okay, so let's build a realistic Disney day, which includes picking 8 things that you are going to guarantee that you will do at the park. So first, you need to identify your top 3 Lightning Lane multi passes that you are going to book. I just don't recommend not using Lightning Lane. There are ways to get around it, and if you are someone who is like, this is just not in the budget, I do sell 1-day guides, and one of the guys teaches you how to get around the day without Lightning Lane. So, but the goal is pick your top 3, and that way you can prepare for the booking window. Then you're going to list out any shows, parades, or dining experiences you already have. You're going to also be mindful of the fact that your Lightning lanes will be affected by your dining reservations. So if you have an early reservation like at 11 and you think you're going to be able to book a Lightning lane at 8 o'clock, sometimes it will skew what's available or what it shows you based on that dining reservation. So keep that in mind. Then you're going to decide if you're going to purchase Lightning Lane, multi-pass, and single pass for everyone in the group, or are there some people who don't want to ride? Because if that's the case, what you're going to do is you're going to book your Lightning Lane multi-pass first, and then you're going to go back and book your single pass by itself. Because once you select everyone in the group, and if you choose to, like, let's say you don't have everyone who rides Tron, but you picked everyone together, you put Tron, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and you put your Lightning Lane multi-pass, you're going to have to pay for everyone, even if there's like 4 people who don't want to ride Tron. So sometimes it's better just to book those single passes alone. Then you need to decide what is your strategy for that day. Are you rope dropping in the morning and going to early entry and taking a midday break? Do you want to start late, get to the park around 9 or 10 o'clock, and then stay for the rest of the day? Or are you a family that wants to be there at early entry, rope drop that, and you leave early and you don't see the nighttime shows? There isn't a wrong way to do Disney. All of these work well, and all of them will give you full magical days. You just have to decide what's important to you. I personally am a nighttime spectacular girl. So I want to be there to see fireworks, the nighttime parades, and that kind of stuff. But I also like to utilize those early entry hours when the park is the least crowded it's going to be all day. So we forever are going to be a midday break family just because that works best when we're having full days. Now, for leisure days, especially this year that we have the annual passes for everyone, we can be more leisurely and go to the park later. But I know when you're deciding on a trip and you're going for 6 nights or 7 nights, you need to pick what strategy you're going to use every day, and every day doesn't have to be the same. Every day is not a midday break day. When we go to Animal Kingdom, we start early, leave early, so that's our plan for that part. Then you need to decide your overall strategy, create your list of filler activities to do once you've knocked out your 8 activities. And then that also is leaving room for magic, because you don't want such a crammed day that you're running from place to place and you leave no room for magic to happen or exist. So now I'm going to walk you through planning a day using this formula that I use for planning our Disney trips. Okay, so we are going to talk about the realistic Disney Day 8. So this is when I pick at the beginning of planning the 8 activities that we are going to do, that I know I've talked to my family about, and I've asked them, what do you want to accomplish? And this is the list of items that they want to accomplish. So I know, like, okay, no matter what, we're going to accomplish these 8 things, and then everything else is a bonus. So I'm going to read my priorities to you. So we have Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear, Ranger Spin, and Peter Pan's Flight as the top 3 things that my kids and my husband want to do. We have a table service reservation at 1:30. I am not a breakfast person, especially if we're going to do table service, because I do think it ruins the flow of your day. So if I can encourage you to avoid something, it is breakfast, especially in the park. Now, if you want to do a character meal outside of one of your park days, there's Topolino's and there's also Cape May as breakfast areas that are outside of the park, and Ravello at the Four Seasons. But when you have a breakfast inside of the park, it actually kind of ruins the flow of the day, and your lightning lanes show up around your scheduled dining, because dining is done at 60 days. So if you had an 8 a.m. breakfast, it probably wouldn't show you lightning lanes until 11. So just keep that in mind when you're planning your table service or character meals. Then these are our other activities that we want to do. So we have 4 more out of the 8. We have Festival of the Fancy Parade at 3 o'clock, Happily Ever Fireworks, which depending on the time of year, it could be 8, 8:15, 9, or 9:30. Then we want to get on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which we'll pay for, and Tron, which we'll pay for too. Then I have my list of like bonus and filler activities. We want to do all the Fantasyland stuff. So like Mad Hat Tea Party, Dumbo, Winnie the Pooh. We want to stop by Sir Mickey's and get some pixie dust. We want to find some Pascals while we're in Fantasyland, ride Barnstormer, and then anything that we do in Adventureland, Frontierland, that's all a bonus for our family. So that is my overview of what the day will look like. So let's talk about pre-booking Lightning Lane, multi-pass, and single pass, and also setting up our Scam by Skipper. So we are doing this all before our trip, which honestly makes the trip a lot more relaxing. There are a few things that I'm doing differently now that we can pre-book our rides. Magic Kingdom is never my first day at Walt Disney World. I know you are so excited and anxious to get to that castle, but please believe me, you will have a greater advantage if it's not your first day. You want to make sure that you have that strong advantage so you can get those high demand rides. From there, I'm looking at what we want to do and identifying the tier 1 rides that will sell out first. In this case, that's Peter Pan's Flight and Space Mountain. So I have to actually think about how I want my day to flow. can we rope drop one of these rides and book the other ride? We, in this case, will be using early entry, and we will be rope dropping early entry because we will take a solid midday break for about 3 hours and come back for the evening hours and for fireworks at night. So I have set my goals with intention of what I want booked, which will then help me go ahead and pre plan what I need to do for standby skipper and what I need to do for pre booking. So even though this is a standby skipper video, understanding lightning lane is very important. So I put this graphic in here too, just to explain the advantages of staying on property. Now, only 30 to 40% of people going to Walt Disney World stay on property. So that's why this advantage is so great. As you can see, the Blue family, if you look at the Magic Kingdom day, it's not the first day. So they arrive, they go to the water park, they go to Epcot, and then they go to Magic Kingdom. I would love to put Magic Kingdom even further, but realistically, knowing people's patterns and behaviors, this is a realistic trip for someone who is going for like 7 nights. Your free water park day obviously is a no brainer, and it releases the stress of having a park. Epcot is the best park to start at because it's a circle and you cannot get lost. And you also will learn how to use Lightning Lane and all the systems Disney has. Then happens Magic Kingdom because I know you cannot wait to go to the castle. And Epcot closes at 9 o'clock. And that is a pretty standard close time. It does not change. They usually have the fireworks show at 9 and then the park clears out. So that's enough time to have a pretty decent sleep before you do a really early morning at Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom's Main Street opens an hour before the park opens and 30 minutes before early entry for those on-site guests. So you can get into the park really early and be ready to rope drop either Fantasyland or Tomorrowland. Then of course have a rest day because Magic Kingdom is always like a 12 to 14-hour day depending on how long you're staying there. If you're staying for fireworks, if you're staying for Disney Starlight, Dream the Night Away. And so I always put a rest day after Magic Kingdom. It's not negotiable. Then you go to Animal Kingdom on the longer trip, and because it's an early morning and it's a early evening because Animal Kingdom has the shortest amount of hours because due to the animals there. And then you can pack up and get ready to go home, have your Hollywood Studios home, and then depart later in the day. So that's how I set up Family Blue. Family Pink is coming for like a shorter trip. They're just hitting 2 parks. I would have definitely put Epcot first and then Magic Kingdom second to give them a greater advantage. But here they have about 7 days of an advantage for booking because they're on property too. Then you have the Tan family, and you realize they're not on property and they just have 3 days in advance. And for them, if they're going to the park subsequent days, they will have to get up and book 3 days before. So there's a very big possibility that they could be at a park when they need to book, depending on how long their trip is. So this is just a good visual of what that looks like when you're building out your trip. So I'm going to walk you through my complete planning process right now, and this is what it looked like. So my first step is I am going to identify what lightning lanes I'm going to pre-book based on the sheet that we had planned out with our top 8. You're going to notice in my lightning lane pre-booking, it doesn't really look the same. First of all, I have Peter Pan's Flight on there when Space Mountain is one of our top rides, too. Then Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, and then Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. So my thought process in this is Peter Pan's Flight is harder to get than Space Mountain. So I'm going to book that lightning lane first, and I'm going to book it, for 9 a.m. as early as I can get there. But depending on what's available, I'm probably going to be able to get Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor right when the park opens. So that's why I call it a burner ride. Your burner ride is kind of a nothing ride that you can just tap into and do really quick. So it opens up all the rules for Lightning Lane. So more than likely, Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, I will be able to get, if the park opens at 9, I will be able to get a 9 a.m. slot for that. So right at 9 a.m., we will be in Tomorrowland and I can tap into that ride. Then Buzz Lightyear Ranger Spin, I should be able to overlap with about 20 minutes. That is the most that you can overlap within the hour of Lightning Lane. So if you get a 9 a.m. Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, you could get a 9:40 Buzz Lightyear Ranger Spin. And then that way I can shoot for Peter Pan that is around 10:30, which is more realistic anyway. So that is going to be my pre-booking for Lightning Lane. That will give me a nice stack. It'll give me rides from 9 a.m. basically to 10:30, and those three will be on there. Then my single pass booking, I am going to book Tron for around 10 a.m., which is an hour after the park opens because we probably will still be in Tomorrowland. And then I'm going to book Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for 12 because that will be the last ride I anticipate we go on before we go to Crystal Palace for lunch. So our other reservations, like I said, is Crystal Palace at 1 p.m. It's a character meal that features Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and Eeyore. It's buffet style, and it's inspired by like Southern and Cajun comfort foods. It's really good. And there's a really good kids buffet there as well. So then I have to identify what is my park strategy. So I know what I'm going to book. I know what reservations we have. So my park strategy here is we are going to rope drop early entry, and I want to be there when Main Street opens. I say an hour before, but let's be real, it's going to be about 45 minutes. That way we can grab our castle picture and then be ready to rope drop Tomorrowland during early entry. We are going to try to go straight to Space Mountain from rope drop and get on that ride. If it looks like the line is getting too long, then we will divert and probably go ride Astro Orbiter and the People Mover. And then that is when I'm going to put in my first batch for Standby Skipper. I actually would probably put my batch in the night before, if I'm being honest, and I would put Space Mountain in ASAP because when those drops happen, when the park first opens, we should have been tapped into Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor at 9 o'clock. So hopefully our goal is to grab one of those morning spots that would become available for Space Mountain. Then I'm going to put Tomorrowland Speedway in morning and Tiana's Bayou Adventure at night because that is one of our goals. And that will probably be the only ride that we ride when we come back to the park. So back to the park strategy, our goal is, be on Main Street 45 minutes before, get to rope drop, Space Mountain. And then, but a lot of people will be going to Space Mountain if they're rope dropping Tomorrowland. So just keep that in mind, but it goes pretty fast in the morning. Then we will watch Festival of the Fantasy from the backside of Main Street. That way we can head right out when the parade is over. It takes about 18 minutes. So the parade starts in Frontierland. And so just think it won't get to you till about 3:18. And then it will be about 18 minutes. And so about 3:40, you can head out of the park. It's going to take you about 25 minutes to get to your resort. I don't care where you are. And then, unless you're walking to it to the Contemporary, and then you finally would get back to your resort around 4:15. So our plan is to take a break for a couple hours or mobile order dinner, and have it in the room and then head back. And hopefully we'll have like a little nice stack of rides. And Tiana is definitely going to be our priority. Once that first batch, so Space Mountain and Tomorrowland are done, and Tiana is booked. I'm going to put in all the Fantasyland rides in batch 2 because we're going to spend most of our morning in Fantasyland. And at that point, I am going to put them in ASAP because I've already got my night ride with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And once we've knocked out all of Fantasyland, I want all of the rides to be within 2 hours because that's where we're going to be. We'll get on Seven Dwarfs around noon. And that is how fast your morning is going to go. So you get on Seven Dwarfs around noon, and then you still ride whatever rides are still booking. And then you're going to head over to your Crystal Palace reservation, which is going to take you about an hour and a half, which was you at 2:30. Well, Festival of the Fantasy starting at 3. So at 2:30, you could go and grab a little snack, grab an ice cream from the ice cream parlor, and then head to the back of the park. And that is how fast it goes. So then other filler activities, like if we have some downtime, I have the Sir Mickey's Pixie Dust, Find Pascal, obviously Tiana, that's a priority. So we have that on there. And then ride attraction to Fantasyland, Tomorrowland. Places to eat. So this is where like the game plan is important to just know. We're going to have breakfast in the room. That makes things fast. We're going to pack snacks. We could stop over Storybrooke Treats, which is located in Fantasyland. And then cheeseburger egg rolls if we need a little snack, which is located in the Castle Hub, the exterior of Adventureland. And then we will eat at the resort, and we are going to order quick service. We'll mobile order it. So at the beginning of this video, I talked about the planning workbook. My planning workbook has 70 pages, and no, you will not need all 70. The reason it has 70 is because everyone plans differently. So I have sheets in there that are some that you may need. You may need a packing list, I have packing lists in there. Basically, you can take what you need from it. Most people need about 15 sheets out of the 70. And this is one of them. This is the Lightning Lane planning sheet for Magic Kingdom. I try to keep this up to date. I'll always put what's closed and needs a refurbishment. And then it lays out where you need to pick your top two tier ones and your top four tier twos, because you're going to be looking at the times that are available and you want to make sure you're planning strategically. And then you can write in what times you booked. It lets you put your booking window and the date you're going to the park, because I have these sheets for every single park. And when you're booking your lightning lanes, you always want to do the hardest park first. So you're going to start with Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios and then work your way backwards, even if those aren't the order of your days. You don't necessarily want to go in order of your days, because you want to go where you have the highest advantage, which are usually those park days at the back of your trip or the trickiest parks first. Here is another sheet that you can use. It's a daily park plan sheet that goes over your entire day. So you fill this in once you have sat down and planned out everything. And this is also free. When you get a successful booking from Standby Skipper, you will get a notification, because if you don't do this already, all of your notifications for My Disney Experience and Standby Skipper should be on while you're in the park, because if Disney needs to notify you that they're at capacity, you'll get a notification on your My Disney Experience. Or if, for instance, we were there last July and Disney Starlight was doing a surprise performance the day we were at Magic Kingdom, and we were planning on leaving early because that was our 4 part challenge day. But because of that notification, we were like, okay, we're not going anywhere. So you really want to make sure your notifications are on for My Disney Experience and Standby Skipper. You'll get a text that says success, and it'll tell you when it's booked. Things are so much better now that we can modify. So let's say you get a time and you're like, oh, that's not going to work. You can go in and try to modify on your own if you need a little bit of a later time, or you can reset, cancel the ride and reset your Standby Skipper for a later time. But hopefully you won't have to do that now that they have the 6 different categories. That was more of an issue whenever I only had the evening category, which would book rides right at 4 o'clock because Standby Skipper was so good. But like I said, turn your notifications on. You'll get text like this, your screen. You can see this one day. I was so successful. It booked so many things while we were at Epcot and Animal Kingdom. So Standby Skipper was such a big help. So the reason why I tell you to only pick 8 activities is because I know while you're there, you're going to fulfill so much more. But I want you to pick the priorities to your family and get those done in the morning. There is nothing worse than being like, the only thing I wanted to do today was ride Big Thunder Mountain, but you waited to put that at the end of the day and everyone's exhausted. No one wants to stay. And now someone is upset because they didn't get to do the one thing that they wanted to do. So I have you focus on those 8 activities. I want you to get those done super early, unless it's something like Bippity Boppity Boutique is scheduled at 4 p.m. because you're going to Cinderella's Royal Table. That's going to happen because that's a scheduled event. But I always say nothing that is on the top 8 list should be done after 6 p.m. If you have something scheduled for after 6 p.m. and you're going with kids, it's a bad idea because there's a possibility it will not happen. But in leaving room, like for other activities, so you do the 8 activities that your family wants to do, then you have the other filler activities, bonus activities that you've listed out that you would like to do, but you're not like going to be devastated if you don't do it. You leave room for magic and experiences to happen organically, and that's why I really press on not overscheduling the day, because you've done your enough research, especially if you're watching a video on Standby Skipper, to know what's happening at each park. And so there are opportunities for a lot of magic, or you're not going to be rushing to the next place. I'll never forget, I took a friend's family to Disney, and they were a huge FOMO family. They had to get on every ride. And so we did a VIP tour to knock that out. And then the day I planned, what they realized is their boys loved watching the shows, but because they're not a typical show family, They mentally were like, no, we don't want to do any of that. And that is where they found the magic. So when you stop over planning the day, it allows room for magic, and you don't miss opportunities because you were so busy trying to rush to the next ride. Now, I will say there are some days that are so fun when you're like, we're going to ride 18 rides today, or we're doing a 4 park challenge. And those are fun, but they need to be done with intention. They shouldn't be your norm. They should be like the exception. For you type A's out there, I'm one of them too. You have to let Standby Skipper work. I would get so anxious that I'd be like, why is it not booking the next ride? That I would just log in myself. And this is when it was Genie Plus and you only were like holding like, one at a time. You're trying to stack. And I would log in. And by the time I logged in, I would get a notification that it was successful. So I really had to learn to just let Standby Skipper work. Like it actually books faster than I'm ever going to book. So just let it work and it will do its job. So here are the cons of Standby Skipper. I can't talk about all the goods without making you aware of the bad things. One, of course, there's the extra cost. No one wants to pay an additional $40 on top of the $200 to $500 you're going to spend on Lightning Lane, depending on how many days you're going to the park. But this is definitely a $40 investment that is worth it. And remember, it's $40 with the code WHD5. Two, there's no pre-booking. They do not book your lightning lanes in that 7-day week window for you. This is for use at the park only to make your day more seamless and easier to manage. The groups of 12 thing is hard because even though you go with a larger group and maybe not everyone rides a ride, only being able to book 12 when my Disney experience allows you to book 20 now can be tricky on larger trips because now you're going to have two separate standby skipper accounts. We've done it. It does work when you do it this way. It's just the two people who are the quote unquote bookers have to really work together in getting times close enough. And if you're within like 20 minutes, Disney usually lets you like scan in and ride together. But we made it work. We have done it where we had two standby skipper accounts. But I wish they would bump it up since Disney bumped it up to 20 as well. Then four, you still have to have a park plan. It's not like a situation where you can just wing it and go, okay, well, we're just going to use this. Like I said before, my husband actually did this at my son's 13th birthday. We had standby skipper for that whole week. And then he went with just the boys and he was like, yeah, I just put everything in ASAP and I wasn't getting anything. And he was like, and then I realized like what you had said, that ASAP is only 2 hours from right now and we didn't necessarily need the rides that fast or those specific ones. So then he started putting the higher demand runs in anytime, or he started using like the morning or afternoon windows, and it started booking things more. And he realized like ASAP is much better for the lower demand rides that they just want to walk up on. So he finally got the hang of it, and then he loved it after that because then it catches the drops that you're not looking for. And then obviously it doesn't book your single pass. So you will still have to book your single pass on your own. But since we do pre-booking now, this is not as big of a deal as it was when we were using Genie Plus when you're booking single passes at 7 a.m. Now that you are doing it ahead of time, it's really not that big of a con because if you're staying on property, typically single pass is not selling out at your 7-day weekend window. It's more the people who are off property who only have the 3-day advantage for booking. During busier times, you are not able to get as many of the single passes. But on and off property seems to be okay in terms of getting single passes for the most part. It's just holiday weekends, Thanksgiving, Christmas, those times of year, you will see Lightning Lane sell out very fast. If you have any questions about Standby Skipper, feel free to put them in the caption. I come on very frequently and I will answer those questions. If you have more questions about your Disney vacation, make sure you're following me on Instagram. That is my most active platform. And I do a weekly question box where I answer your Disney vacation questions. I also have a group called the Pixie Dust Planning Group. That's a broadcast channel where I'm in there all the time, almost daily, going over different planning things that people need to be aware of. And obviously, I have my blog, so make sure to check out that blog. It's very detailed with over 180 blogs that I have written that help you plan your Disney vacation, from surprising the kids that they're going to Disney, if you should or if you shouldn't surprise them, to what you need to know about strollers, to how to plan and execute your days for each park. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I know it was a lot of information. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter so you can get the free planning sheets that we talked about in the Realistic Disney Day.
If you found that video useful, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you real soon.